Hi, good afternoon. Today is July 15th, and we just wrapped up a Board of Supervisors meeting. So as usual, I'm going to run through some of the key decisions and discussion items. So we started out the meeting with something that we do, I think it's every quarter, where we recognize outstanding Pima County employees. So today we recognized Mark Rethy, Rosemary Leyva, Kathy Coda, Sigifredo Quintana Corona, Yvette Romero, Caroline Lewis, Robin Freeman, Catherine Ria, and Cheryl Lopez for their outstanding commitment to the county and just doing a fantastic job. This is an honor they get nominated for from their supervisors, their peers, other folks. Also, two folks, long-standing Pima County employees retired today, Dennis Crosby and Maria Reyes. I don't normally reference things that folks talk about in Call to the Audience, but today I have to, because I got a really kind gift from Mr. Salvatierra, who gave me this lovely bromeliad. So thanks to him for his generosity and his kind words. We also heard, I'll mention this as well, one of the speakers that called the audience called on the board to encourage the Sheriff's Department to reinstate a policy that they had recently canceled, which required the Sheriff's Department to track every time that they call Border Patrol to provide assistance or support to sheriff's deputies. There's been a couple of news stories about this in the Arizona Luminaria. I have spoken out against the loss of this policy and the importance of it for both transparency and building trust in these days of incredible ICE operations and deportations and sort of kidnappings of people. Moving on, we had a presentation today from Ms. Davis, who is the coordinator, if the title is correct, of the Tucson Pima Collaboration to End Homelessness. She had presented on what the collaboration is, kind of how it works, and some of the kind of updates to the strategic plan that they're in the process of developing. That entity kind of serves as a hub for coordination amongst the agencies that are involved in providing homeless response services across the county. We also had on the agenda today our approval of the county's legislative agenda. And we kind of bifurcate the agenda, we don't do it yet. What we approved today was kind of the entirety of our legislative priorities. Some of them will go on to be shared with the County Supervisors Association, which is a lobbying entity that the county is part of. The other becomes just part of Pima County's legislative agenda. I had tried unsuccessfully today to get included in the agenda, directing our lobbyists to investigate options for ways to get rid of the state exemption that is given to data centers from having to pay state and local sales tax on their purchases of data center equipment in the state. This is a huge loss of revenue for state and other localities through this exemption. Oftentimes these sorts of exemptions are used to incentivize new businesses, new kind of industry to come to the region, given that data centers are already saturating the state of Arizona, and given the impact that they have on our water, energy demand, air quality, noise pollution. I don't think that we need to incentivize there and make things even easier for them to come and settle and in our communities. But I did not prevail, did not get majority votes on that. So it is not on the agenda, but don't worry, we will continue in our own capacity to advocate to eliminate that incentive. We also, something else I did not convince my peers to do. We had on the agenda today the renewal of the contract for the Chamber of Southern Arizona, right, which is the new entity that's merged Sun Corridor, and the Metro Chamber of the Greater Tucson area. Those two entities have merged. It's now the Chamber of Southern Arizona. Pima County gives a large chunk of financial support previously to Sun Corridor, so now it would be extended over to this new entity. So the contract has giving $550,000. The other municipality that contributes is the city of Tucson. They contribute, I believe, is just $50,000. So the disparity is quite tremendous. I talked about my opposition to that amount at the last meeting. I had requests that we reduce that contribution to $300,000 and that we take the other $250,000 and invest it in Pima County's own economic development department. I also proposed an amendment to the contract language that would eliminate some of the language, some of the language about sharing information with our Director of Economic Development, and making sure, so there's language in there that sort of says that if the chamber has signed NDAs with companies, then they may not share information with the Pima County Economic Development Department about some of the projects that they're involved in trying to kind of bring to Pima County. Given all that we have been through around Project Blue, and we have arrived at a point where we're identifying some needs for greater transparency protections. So I was trying to advocate for ensuring transparency and communication with at least our economic development department, and I did not prevail in getting that language removed either. So a couple of good things that we did approve with board support. We funded the Pima County Community Land Trust with a contract about $250,000 for building affordable housing. This is some of our gap funding. So 2 homes will be built in the Barrio Kroger Lane as part of an infill project. We also approved, again, as part of our affordable housing gap funding, $600,000 for the Southwest Nonprofit Housing Corporation, and this is to build a multi-family housing unit that has 6 units that is primarily for seniors in the Midville Park area. We also approved a contract for asbestos and lead-based paint abatement at the Roger Road wastewater treatment plant that is now shut down. This is in the Flowing Wells area. There has been a lot of engagement of District 3 residents around how to use, what we should do with that shut down wastewater facility. And so I know the neighborhood has a whole lot of ideas. This contract is making some of those facilities that remain more usable and habitable. We approved the liquor license today for Tacos El Tarasco restaurant in Ajo. So congratulations to Sergio, the owner, and his family. And I look forward to visiting them in their new location in Ajo, and encourage others to make your way on out to Ajo. And if you are there, stop by Tacos El Tarasco. Last item was on the addendum, and this was to explore the feasibility of a county sales tax, a half-cent sales tax. And this was just a discussion item that was kind of referred then to the county administrator and staff to kind of tease out what this could look like. But this is all in relation to the RTA, the Regional Transportation Authority, which has been funded by a half-cent sales tax. to provide for 20 years of transportation projects constructed over a 20-year period. There has been, and I encourage you to kind of watch the board meeting to kind of get a deep dive into kind of where things are at with RTA. We had a kind of presentation by the interim, I think his title's director, Mike Ortega, formerly the city manager at Tucson, who's now stepped in to run RTA, on kind of the finances of RTA. So the real short of it is that there was a lot of not great management at RTA, to put it mildly, and I think unbeknownst to the board, folks in leadership around RTA, there is a significant, about a $550 million gap in funding to finish out the projects of RTA 1. You may recall that we are also in the middle of talking about RTA 2. But what was discussed today at the board meeting was the possibility of just a kind of a gap funding out of a half-cent sales tax that could be run by the county. This is just a continuation, I should say. It's a continuation of an existing tax. It's not a new on top of anything else. It just continues out the half-cent sales tax that could help generate the revenue to finish up the first RTA funding, what do we call it, sort of the suite of projects. In the materials for the board meeting, you can see kind of the spreadsheet of the expenses and the projections and sort of how it is that they got to this gap. You can see some other good materials and watch the detailed discussion both from Ortega as well as from others around that table. So yeah, I think those were the key items. Thanks again to everybody who continues to reach out to us about their concerns about Project Blue. Please continue to do that, reaching out to us, reaching out to other decision makers as that progress goes along. You've probably seen that there is now a draft development agreement with the city of Tucson and Tucson Water and Project Blue or Beal. I encourage folks to look at some of the news articles, read the draft document, and continue to be engaged. Thank you, and have a good rest of the day.